All right. Before we get started, though, man, I had a great week. Let me just tell that, like, right from the get-go. Me and my wife, we've been married for 5 years now. Just had our 5-year anniversary. You can cheer. I was kind of hoping for a cheer. Best 5 years of my life. Had to say that, for reasons. No, really, no, it's been good. But we wanted to do something special, so we decided to go on a cruise for our 5-year anniversary. And we've never really been like the vacation type of family, Like I'm kind of like a goer, if you know what I mean. And so it's hard for me to just like detach from like the stuff that I got to do. But I'm like, no, we're gonna go. What's a vacation that we could take where we have like no connection with the outside world? I know, we'll get on a boat and go off the grid. So that's what we decided to do, and we decided to go on a cruise. And I'd never been on a cruise before, and to be perfectly honest, like I've never really gone on like a legitimate vacation before. Anytime I ever go somewhere, it's with a purpose to do something, And so like this was like our first like real authentic like vacation. And so I didn't really know what to do with myself, Because I'm like, you mean to tell me I'm not like preaching at one of the places that we get off, or I'm not gonna like be building something? And so I didn't really know what to do, but we get on this cruise, and I'm like, so do we just, like, relax, Yeah, and she's like, yeah, I guess we just don't do anything. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And so I get in the room, and I'm just kind of like, it's just one of those, like, I'm like trying to fix the desk or something. I just don't know what to do with myself. And she's like, no, rest, relax. So I'm like, okay, I'll try this nap thing you've told me so much about. And I'm not a nap person. Like, there's something in my blood that just says, no, sun's up. But I napped for 2 hours, and then I woke up, and we went and ate dinner, and then I came back and slept some more. And I slept for like 11 hours that night, so I'm like feeling guilty the next day. She's like, don't feel guilty, this is a vacation, soak it up. I'm like, if you say so, baby, And it was amazing because it was like such a different experience, How many guys have ever gone on a vacation that's just so different from home life? You know what I mean? It's just so different. And I start comparing it, and then I start like thinking like, how can we live on this boat? Do you think that they'll notice? We're the last cabin at the back of the boat. Technically, like we could do like one of those Wile E. Coyote things where we just like make like a fake end and put it before our door and they'll never know the difference. Do you think we can just stay here? Because this is so much better than home. And I really started comparing it to all this stuff, and I'm like, there's no reason why we can't just like do this for the rest of our lives, right? I mean, money aside. But I'm comparing it, I'm like, I mess up the bed and I leave to go get free breakfast that somebody else cooked for me, and I come back and the bed's made. I'm like, wow! I use the towel when I get out of the shower and I go to put it on the rack, and I'm like, no. Because I realize I'm like, I could just do whatever I want, I just knock over some stuff, and then you go up and you go to the buffet, and like I eat like plates and stuff, and I go to get a refill, and the person's like, I'm sorry, sir, no. I'm like, oh, no refills? He goes, no, you can't use that glass. You get a new clean glass. And I was like, okay then, If I tried doing that at home, like I get a clean glass every time I get a refill. Ashley's like, are you doing the dishes today, sir? I'm like, this is so much better. So much better. And I sat down, and we had dinner, and they brought me out a steak. And I ate the steak, and I'm like, I'm still a little hungry. I'll have a lobster. And I'm waiting for the guy to laugh at me, and he goes, okay. And he brings it to me, and I'm like, this is amazing. I could never do that at home. And I start comparing that things are different when you're on a cruise. And I start comparing it, and even like just the way that they do things and like the effort that they put into something is amazing. Like when I use a towel at home, my wife, she's an amazing woman. She washes it and puts it back on the rack. These people, they took the towel, and I come back and they folded it and put it on the bed, and it was in the shape of like a sexy piglet. It was amazing. I'm like, huh. And it really started making me compare the life of being on a cruise to being at home. And for the first few days, I was on cloud 9, and I did not want to go back. Day one, Ashley's like, I miss my babies. I'm like, they're fine. we got the sexy piglet towels and the steak and lobster. The kids will be okay. And I started comparing it, but after a while, my man brain started to subside, and I started to really miss my home. And I started realizing something, that as wonderful as a cruise was, there was a difference between being on a cruise and being home. Because a cruise is all about you, but your home is all about family, you know? And a cruise is all about being served, but home is all about serving. And that makes things different, because no matter how lovely your cruise is, your heart will always long to be home, because when you're home, it's home, you know? You know it. You're familiar with it, you're comfortable with it. Things might not be as nice, things might not be as put together, but you're home, and you know how everything works, and you know where everything goes. It's a lot more responsibility, it's a lot more service, but it's yours. You know what I mean? And I started thinking about it, and then I started noticing how much I missed my house, because I went into like the shower, and I'm like super cheap, so I'm like, free water, showers all day. And I go into like the shower, whatever, and I turn on the shower, and it's like one of those, like, I don't know why these happen, but they have like the faucets that come off that you can like, I don't know if people are like washing their cars in there or what, but it's like the faucet that comes off the shower head. And so the water pressure is ridiculous, and I turn it on, and it just goes, and the thing was like bent like this, and it just started like flying around the shower. And I'm like, whoa, my gosh, and I'm trying to grab it, and then Ashley's trying to come in. I'm like, stay out, stay out, stay out. His water's going everywhere, and then she opens up the door when I'm done with the shower, and there's just like pools of water. And I'm like, still clean it up. But at home, that doesn't happen as much. Once or twice, but not as much, because I know how my shower works. And I started thinking about it, and I really, really wanted to be home. And after sailing around the world and we went to Mexico and all this stuff, not around the world, but you know, a couple hundred miles. Sounds better when you say around the world. And going to all these really cool locations, none of it could hold a candle to when we got home and I saw my little boys running up to me and saying, Daddy, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing in this world. Like, dude, we went to the place where they filmed the Corona commercials. Not even close, okay? It's actually kind of an ugly beach. But my kids running up and just like, Daddy, and they come running in. I go into my house and I took a shower in my shower, and I didn't like wet the whole place down. It was amazing. It was amazing because it was home. And it really got me thinking about the difference that we can have in this life. And it's all a matter of whether we want to be served or whether we want to be a part of serving. And I want to make that connection for you guys. And I want to let you know, I wrote a message for you all, and last night I was looking over, and I just felt God tell me that wasn't really what he wanted me to say, because I'm typically, like, for those of you guys that know me, if you see me come up here, like, all right, better, take some aspirins, because he's going to throw some punches today. I normally preach, like, pretty hard messages, and I felt like that was not really what God wanted me to do today. So today, I don't really want to stand up here and issue a challenge or anything like that. I just want to stand up and have a heart-to-heart with you guys today. Can we do that? Can we have a heart-to-heart this morning? So before we get into the word, I would like us to just pray this morning. So if you can, I want you to close your eyes with me. God, I thank you so much, God, that we have a home, God, that we have a family that loves us, Lord. I thank you so much that this church is our home, and that this church is filled with a family, a body of believers that love one another. And God, I thank you so much, God, that we are here to serve, Father God, to be brothers and sisters to one another, God, and to help one another in this life, God. And I ask you, God, that this morning as we have this heart-to-heart, that you will open our hearts to your word and to what you would have us to hear and what you would have to be said. God, we love you so much, and we're so thankful and so appreciative of our home, God. And sometimes it's so easy to just get so fixated on the luxuries of this life that we miss out on the blessing of home. And God, this morning we just want to thank you and rejoice in the fact that we are home, God, and give you praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We are more fulfilled, church, when we're part of a family. And we're part of a family when we serve. I was reminded of this last night. There's a couple in our church. Some of you might know them, some of you might not. They're named Mike and Lynn. Beautiful couple in our church, and they've only been coming for a few months. They've been coming since, I believe, April, And we had them over at our house last night because they're moving today, actually. They're going to be going up to North Carolina. I'm really sad to see them go. They're a wonderful couple. And I had Mike and his wife over last night, and we just had a great time. And it was so funny because we were just laughing and talking, and I was being a complete and total moron. And they were laughing so much like they were crying. And it was just one of those like great times. You guys ever have like that, those great nights with friends and you just really connect and you're just laughing together and everything? It was one of those great nights, and I was outside and I was talking with Mike, and I was like, so what's the thing you're going to miss the most about Florida? He's like, to be honest, I hate Florida. I can't wait to leave. And I was like, oh, that's positive. He's like, well, all that being said, the thing that I'm going to miss the most is my church family. He said, I'm going to miss you guys. And he's like, I know I'm not going to be able to find a church like Victory up where I'm going. I'm going to have to settle for something, He's like, I'm sure I'll find a good church, but it's not going to be like you guys. You guys are family to me. And I remember just that night, last night we were just talking and enjoying each other's company and having fun. And when they left, it was like a bittersweet thing because I know that he's going to a better job opportunity and all this sort of thing. But it's just sad to lose this guy because he's a friend to me. He's like a brother. And I started thinking about it. I was like, why do I feel so close to this guy? I've only known him for a few months. And then I started realizing that one of the greatest characteristics about Mike is he was somebody that came into this church and as soon as he got here, just started serving. And anybody that's involved in ministry in this church knows that this guy came in, hit the ground running. And he told me straight up, he's like, I'm not interested in coming to church. I want to be a part of a church. And he came and he started serving. He got involved in these lights that you see hanging up on the ceiling. He came in and volunteered his free time to come and do that. We have wires that are run under the stage that you guys will never see and never know about. And this guy was crawling underneath the stage for hours upon hours, wiring all these things. And I never even asked him to do it. He came and he saw a need and he wanted to be a part. And in serving, we grew together and we bonded together. And now he looks at this church in just a few short months as a family. And the only thing that breaks his heart about leaving Florida is that he's going to be leaving his family. And he's not an exceptionally outgoing guy. He's a very, very nice guy, but he's not like really outgoing. He's not a social butterfly, but he's a servant. And this guy came in, hit the ground running and said, I want to serve. I want to be involved. And just a few short months later, he feels the pain of having to leave because this is his family. There's no place like home because home is where your family is. And you're fulfilled when you're part of a family, and we're part of a family when we serve one another. And this is a biblical truth. And so we're doing this sermon series called Mission. And so today, the mission that we're looking at is the mission to serve. There are three parts to the mission of Victory Christian Center: to save, to serve, and to send. And today we're looking at to serve because I believe that to serve is an integral part of the mission of Jesus Christ. Do you guys realize that our God is a serving God? Do you guys realize that? Everything about him just demonstrates his acts of service through his great love. The fact that he sent Jesus to die on the cross for us for our sins was an act of service. Everything that he does is in service to us. And my original sermon, I had all kinds of examples, and I went through the Bible and pulled out all these examples of Jesus serving and washing the disciples' feet and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think I need to illustrate how much of a servant Christ was, do I? I think that's pretty evident if you've ever picked up a Bible, how much of a servant he was. So let's understand that, what a servant our Savior was, and move forward to how we respond to that. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 10, it gives us a good place to start. And it says, so then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those within the household of faith. As we have opportunity, let's do good to everyone, especially those in the household of faith. What does that mean? It means your brothers and sisters in Christ. We need to do good for everybody outside the world, your job place, Walmart, wherever you go, but especially you guys with our brothers and sisters in Christ. We need to be open to serving one another. If this church is your home, then serve in your home, not just in ministries, but every day. And when I was first writing this sermon, I was just so focused on saying, man, there's so many ministries within this church, and I figured out how many ministries we have and how many people we're serving, and I was like, oh man, they're gonna feel bad when I bring this one out. But I'm not worried about that, you guys. I don't want to stand up here today and say, you guys, we have holes in ministries and we need to serve, which is a fact. I want to focus on the fact that not that we need to fill gaps and cover holes, but we need to have the hearts of our Savior, the servant God. We need to have servant hearts. That's the issue. Because if we have the heart of a servant, then when we see those gaps, we're going to naturally feel compelled to fill them. And it's not going to be me laying out like a checklist for you to go and check the boxes. It's going to be your heart that is just so moved to compassion through the God that gave you so much and served you so much that you're not only going to serve in this capacity, but you're going to be actively pursuing other capacities outside of those boxes in which to serve as well. Are you with me? You're not just going to come to church and pastors will be like, man, we really need nursery workers. Oh, fine, I'll do the nursery. But you're going to be talking to one of your brothers and sisters, and they're going to be like, man, you know what? I really, really, really need a new washer and dryer. I have one of those. You follow me? We're going to be actively just pursuing ways. How can I be a servant? How can I bless you? How can I be a blessing? How can I do? How can I give? How can I bless? And as an example, you guys, like I think about like my life, and my life, I love this church. I love you guys. Do you guys realize like how much I love you guys? I mean, not Manny, but like everybody else. I say that because Manny's durable. Also, I really don't like, no, I'm just kidding. But I love you guys. Like, I love this church. Like, I mean, me and Ashley, we talk so often about, like, how blessed we are to be a part of this church family. It's such a blessing for us. And I love you guys, and you guys are my family. So I see, as a result of that, and as a result of my knowledge of everything that Christ has done for me, I just want to give my life to God's work and what he's doing in this church, and to you guys, my church family as well. And I want to be available to help you guys. And I've tried, and me and Ashley have tried as much as possible to be available and to have a servant heart. That's not to say that we always do it. There's sometimes people ask for help and favor, and we're like, not now. You know, like you just sit down for dinner and you're like, But as much as possible, like we want to serve and we want to be a blessing. And the amazing thing is we're involved in a family that I'm starting to see that awaken in you guys as well, because now people are starting to help us as well. And I'm going to tell you something, it wasn't always that way. It wasn't always that way. There was a time when, like, if I needed something, or if Ashley needed something, finding somebody to help would be a very difficult thing. But now I've just been thinking about the past week. How many people have helped me? I had a project I really needed some help on, and I was gone, and some people in the church really, like, stepped up and helped me and my wife out with some things. And I was working on something yesterday, and I had some people in the church that were helping me out. And one of the guys called, and he's like, hey, man, my wife's grandfather passed away today, so I'm probably going to be a little late coming to help you. I'm like, no, stay home with your wife. But you know, like that servant heart, like, no, I want to help you, bro. And then another one of the people that was there helping out, they're like, hey, is it okay if I go? My family's doing a birthday dinner for me, and I'm kind of late. I'm like, go to your family's birthday dinner. What are you doing here? But you guys see what I mean? Like that sacrificial servant's heart. I wasn't even paying them, you know? I got like pizza. But it's just that desire to serve. And it's amazing what God can do with a servant's heart. It's amazing what a blessing it is to people when you have a servant's heart. It's amazing when you just stop worrying about what you can get out of a situation. You start saying, God, I just want to be a blessing to people. It's amazing. And I think back to the church in the book of Acts. Have you guys ever read the book of Acts and looked at that church and looked at their hearts? Have you guys ever like stopped and studied that? It's amazing. You look at the book of Acts and they just become so overwhelmed with what Jesus has done for them and the sacrifice that Christ made on the cross and all of those things and all of God's greatness and all of God's goodness and all of God's glory, that they're so compelled and they're so moved that they just start doing things for other people. You notice that? Go through and read the book of Acts. They just start selling property and giving money to the poor and feeding people and meeting needs. And they're bringing in hungry people and giving them food. And they're taking care of widows and orphans. And there's a guy in the book of Acts, and his name is Barnabas, and his nickname was the son of encouragement. That would be awesome, right? If our nicknames were sons of encouragement, you know? Chris, son of cheer. Marie, daughter of smiles. Like, can you guys imagine? Can you imagine what God can do when we start opening up our hearts and saying, God, I just want to serve. God, I just want to serve. I don't want it to be about me anymore. I don't want it to be about all the things that I want and that I need. God, I just want to be a blessing. God, you've done so much for me in my life. And these people have been such a blessing and such a service to me. God, let me just serve. Isn't it amazing what God can do, church? Think about it. Think about it. There's over 100 people. I haven't counted. There's over 100 people in this room right now. Isn't it amazing what God can do with over 100 people that just come to him in complete surrender and say, God, I just want to serve. All of those holes in the ministry that we have, that we've identified, disappear. They vanish. In addition to all of those things vanishing, the church starts to grow because now all the ministries are covered. When the church starts to grow, more people that are broken come in. And when these broken people come in, they don't have to sit here broken because God changes them and restores them. And then brothers and sisters come alongside them and help shoulder them and guide them through their new journey and their walk with Christ. And then those people go out and they serve the other people who are out in the world that are broken, and they bring them in, and all of a sudden revival takes place. Isn't that amazing, church? Isn't that amazing what God can do with a few servant hearts? And I pray, my prayer is that God awakens that in us today. And I want to read another passage of scripture because I want you to truly understand what you're doing when you do for others. This is found in Matthew chapter 25, verses 40, and it says, and the king will say, I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. When you do things for others, you're doing it to God. When somebody needs help and you say no, you're not just saying no to that person, you're saying no to God. When there's a ministry that is going without somebody involved in it, and you say, I don't have the time for that, you're saying, I don't have the time for you. But man, when you see a need and you meet it, you're not just meeting that need. Man, you're being a servant for God. You're doing something for him. You're not just helping a person, man. You're obeying your Savior. And I'm here to tell you something, church. Think about this. The only way to serve God is to serve people. You realize that? You can't really do much for God other than to do things for people. God doesn't need you to mow his lawn. You know what I mean? God's got that handled. He's got like a cherubim for that. I don't know. But God's got all that stuff on lock. You can't really do any favors for him. God doesn't need a pressure wash, thank you very much. Like, God needs you to serve others. This is perfectly illustrated in the fact after Jesus died on the cross and he resurrected and he comes to Peter for the first time, he goes to Peter and he says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, Lord. And then Jesus says what? Feed my sheep. That wasn't enough. Jesus said, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. Feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. What does he say? Do you love me, Peter? Yes, I do. Then I need you to go and serve people. I need you to go and do things for people. I need you to have a servant's heart for people. Because if we stop and think about the characteristics of Peter, Peter was pretty wrapped up in how things came back on him, wasn't he, at that point? Peter denied Jesus and all these sorts of things because he was really concerned about how people saw him and how things affected him. But then Jesus comes like, listen, man, if you really want to be used for me, if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to love me, then feed my sheep. Don't worry about how it affects you. And in fact, when Jesus says this, Peter turns around and he starts looking at the other disciples. He's like, don't worry about them. Worry about you. Feed my sheep. Serve others, because that is the heart of Christ. That is the reason that Christ came, church. Christ came to seek and save. What is seeking and saving the lost? It's an act of service, isn't it? And that's what he wants us to do. That was his mission. That's why he came here, to be a servant. The other parts of our mission statement fall apart if we don't have a servant's heart. Do you realize that? to save and to send go away if we don't have the heart of a servant at the core, beating behind it and putting the lifeblood into those ventures. We cannot save and we cannot send if we're not ready to serve. We have to have a servant's heart, church, if we want to be the church that God's called us to be. If you want to be the person that God has destined you to be, you have to have beating within your chest, driving every choice you make, the heart of a servant. When we serve God, when we serve a God who serves and asks us to serve like he served, it's all about having his heart. It's all about having his heart. God's not asking you to do something that he would never do. Do you realize that, church? God's not asking you to go and do something that's beneath him. God's asking you to do something that he already paved the way on, that he already set the example in. He done walked it out. You just got to follow in his footsteps. You with me, church? But it's counterintuitive, isn't it, church? It's counterintuitive for us as people, because let's face it, like when we're born, when we come into this world, we don't really come into this world with an emphasis on others, do we? We're programmed from a very young age that it's about us. I have 2 baby boys, and I'm always trying to teach them and train them up in the right way. But let's be perfectly honest, like if I give my son a toy, I have to teach him to share, but I don't have to teach him that it's his, do I? It's instinctive. It's intuitive for us. This is mine. This is about me. You can't have it. No, go away. We all want people to serve us, but if we're all seeking to be served, needs will never be met. Do you realize that? If we're all seeking to be served, lives will never be changed, people will never be blessed, and the mission of Christ will go completely and totally unfulfilled. If we're all seeking to be served, then who does the serving? Are you with me? If we're all looking for what we can get out of it, then nobody else gets blessed, because there always has to be some reciprocity there. There always has to be some kickback. And that's the way that most Christians are today. And I was reminded, I was thinking about my brother-in-law. He's telling me when he was in a church up north, he started a ministry called You Got Served. And the point of the ministry was to go out and help people in the church who had a need that they couldn't meet themselves. Maybe it was an older couple that couldn't move, and they were to give them a hand moving, or maybe some people, like a single mom, and she couldn't paint her house, and they were going to go and paint and things like that. And it was all about serving people within the church. And the church thought it was a fantastic idea. And they start telling people, okay, we have this ministry. If you need help, help. You know, if you want to be involved, be involved. And he got no shortage of calls from people that needed help, but nobody would show up to help. And he got up at one point. It got so bad because he has like this waiting list of people that needed service, and nobody would show up to help him. So he gets up in front of the whole church and he's like, this ministry goes away if people don't show up to help. And he said it in front of the whole entire church, and that ministry had to go away because nobody would stand up and be a part of serving, but people had no problem whatsoever with calling up and requesting to be served. Because that's the way that we work, isn't it? Isn't it? And it's amazing to me because I do a lot of talking with people. And the vast majority of the counseling that I do and the problems that I encounter is framed by the vague idea of, I'm unhappy because so-and-so isn't doing this for me. That's the root problem. Now, that manifests itself in many different forms, I hope you understand. But the root problem is, I'm unhappy because they are not doing for me. Because they are not doing for me. Now, this happens in relationships, this happens in marriages, this happens in friendships, this happens in business relationships. Whatever the case is, people are always looking for somebody else to do for them. But when you have a servant's heart, it stops being about what you do for me and what I do for you. John F. Kennedy famously said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You guys remember that? That inspiring thing that we all know, we all quote, but we don't actually live by? Isn't it amazing the difference that's made when people aren't worried about their own interests? Back during the Revolutionary War, there was a war hero. He was a spy for the Americans, and he was spying on the British, and the British caught him. And he had provided a lot of valuable information to the Americans that were helping them win the war. And the British finally caught him. He was very, very important to the Revolutionary War. His name was Nathan Hale. And the British stood him up to execute him for treason. And they said, Nathan Hale, you've spied on the British to help your American brothers. Do you have any last words for yourself? And Nathan Hale looked at them and said, my only regret is that I have but one life to give for my country. And that's amazing. That's how this country is born, is from men like that. Do you understand? People that are willing to give their life, not only give their life, but their only regret is that they can't give more. That's how a nation is born. A nation like America could not have been born from people with selfish intent, but it had to be born from people with selfless hearts that were willing to give of themselves to see other people be blessed. And if your motivation is to be served, you'll find that your every action is performed in the interest of what's in it for you. Everything you do, if your motivation is to be served, everything you do is birthed from that concept. Every choice that you make, every move that you make, every decision, everything is birthed out of what's in it for me. What's in it for me? And you can call it service and you can say that you love somebody, but if you're just looking for what you can get out of it, it changes the game, doesn't it? When I was on the cruise, it was hilarious because they put they put a nice face on everything, you know, like, oh, we're just so excited that you're here with us, you know, so excited, we want to take care of you, we want to serve you, we want to serve you, we want to serve you. That's really what it sounded like. They were annoying, but they said. They did this presentation and stuff, and this guy comes on this TV. He's like, now, if any of you guys needs anything at all, we want to serve you. So go down to our guest services desk so that we can help serve you. We want to make sure that you feel served. It's like, okay. So about halfway through the trip, I got this terrible headache. I needed an aspirin. So I go up to the guest services desk. I was like, hey, I heard you guys are here to serve me. They're like, yes, we are. That's why we're guest services. I was like, okay, I have a headache. Can I have an aspirin? Absolutely, sir. Here's 2 aspirins. That'll be $2. $2 for $1 an aspirin? Did you have a pigeon fly them here just now? Why am I paying $2? That's what a bottle costs. $2? Yes, sir, we can't just give them away. Guest services. Serve me. So you cannot expect us to just give aspirin to everybody with a headache. Well, then you're not guest services, are you? And I started realizing they were fully willing and prepared to serve me as long as there was something in it for them. They didn't let me on that cruise for free, y'all. I got a deal. I got a deal, but it was not free. They were not prepared to serve me. They were prepared to give their services in exchange for something. They were renting their service. It wasn't freely given. It's a completely different motivation behind it. And if your motivation is to be served, you'll find that every action is performed in the interest of what's in it for you. You'll start realizing that if I do something for you, you better do something for me. And then when somebody doesn't do something for you in return after you served them, now all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I helped you. Why aren't you helping me back? But a servant's heart says, I helped you and that's enough for me. Are you with me on that, church? I'm a blessing to you. I helped you. You would not have been able to accomplish what you accomplished without my help and out my assistance and out me behind you. And that's enough for me. I want to be a blessing. I want to serve. I want to help. I want to do a favor. I just want to do everything that I can for you so that you can be blessed. What heart did Christ have? What heart did Christ have? I'm going to come to this world and love you, but conditionally, or did he love unconditionally? Did he come to this world and lay down a list of parameters for you, or did he just come down and say, I love you, and you can love me back if you want a relationship with me? Did Jesus Christ wait to die on the cross before you signed on the salvation dotted line, or did he just die on the cross and say, it's there if you want it, but the service is already done? We serve a serving God. He has no interest in self. He just has interest in you. And we, if we love him, need to have the same heart back towards him and towards the people that he loves so much. Are you with me, church? But man, as people were so focused on reaching this level and reaching this platform so that people can do things for us, and that's not the way that Jesus looked. Let me tell you that, church. I was reminded of this. We went to India. Me and my dad went 2 years ago to India, and we went to, you guys have been here when we had Pastor Tony come in. He's an amazing man of God. He has a church ministry over in India, and they have I don't know, how many churches do they have? How many? 700 churches. He has 700 churches and counting. I believe 250,000 people go to all of those churches. And we went to his big church conference, and there was 2,000 people there. I put up 3 fingers, but it's 2. There's 2,000 people there at this conference, and he is the head of all of it. And he's running around bringing people food, cleaning up after them, taking food off of their tables, and serving people. And he comes up to me. He doesn't even know me at this point. And he's like, would you like another banana? I go, I would love another banana, thank you. And he gives me a banana. I'm like, who's that guy? He's nice. They're like, oh, he's the leader of everything. And it blew my mind. Because I'm from America. I'm like, the leader? He wouldn't be running around fetching bananas. What leader's a banana boy? But no, man, he's the leader. And I remember I talked with him, and he said something I'll never forget. And I said, what's the best leadership advice that you can give me? And he goes, you need to lead by serving. He said, never be afraid of doing anything that you did in the beginning. Amen? Never be afraid of doing anything you did in the beginning. But man, we're always like, if I can get to there, then people will be underneath me. Then people will follow me. Then I'll be in charge and everyone obeys me. But never be afraid of being here and doing what you did in the beginning. I used to fetch bananas when I was a little banana boy, and I'm a leader, and I'm still going to be a banana boy. So get on the banana boat. I went there. But we're so concerned with status, you guys. We're so concerned with status. But your status will only serve to showcase your pride. But your service will showcase your maturity. I have one final passage of scripture that I want to share with you guys, and what happens in this passage. Just a brief recap. There's 2 of Jesus' disciples, and they come up to him, and they're all fired up. They're like, Jesus, when we get when you get to your place of glory, we want to be on your right hand and your left hand. You guys know that story? Jesus, when you get to your place of glory, we want to be on your right hand or your left hand. And Jesus tells them, I can't give that to you. Those places are already reserved. And I think it's an interesting correlation. I don't know if it's related, but I do think that it's interesting that in talking about the least being the greatest, that when Jesus was in his moment of glory, which you could argue is the crucifixion, he had people at his right hand and left hand who were pretty despicable creatures, weren't they? They weren't who you thought they were going to be, were they? They were the lowest of the low. They were criminals. I find that very, very interesting. And then Jesus goes on to say, in Mark chapter 10, verses 42, it says, so Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you, it will be different. Church, among you, it has to be different. It can't look like it does in the world. It can't look like it looks in your workplace. It can't look like it looked in your college or wherever you came from. Among you, it will be different. It's not going to look like that. It's not going to look like dog eat dog world. It's going to look like I'm going to serve you. It's going to be completely different. The landscape is changed. The veneer is gone, and behind it is a heart of service. I don't care what they're doing out there, but among you it will be different. This is Christ speaking to you this morning, church. This is for you today. Whoever wants to be a leader amongst you must be your servant. It's backwards. Among you, it will be different. If you want to be a leader, you've got to be a servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must be a slave of everyone else. Listen to this part, because this is the God that we serve and are called to be like. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus didn't come to this world to be a rock star, so you shouldn't either. Jesus came to this world to be a servant, so you should be as well. God determines your greatness by how many people you serve, not how many people serve you. Do you realize that, church? God's not looking to see, how many people do you have in your Bible study? How many people are in your ministry underneath you? Oh, that's good. You have 14 people. That's good. They only have 5. You're doing much better. Much better. God's not up there with like an abacus, like, yeah, Derek's doing all right. Oh, that Andrew, he needs to start hustling. He ain't got anybody following him. Oh man, God is up there with the beans on the other side. Like, how many people are you serving? What are you doing? Where are you giving? Where are you sacrificing? How are you humbling yourself? And I'm here to tell you, in closing, there's another passage of Scripture that I think is absolutely important. And it says that a servant cannot serve 2 masters. Do you understand that? A servant cannot serve 2 masters. Why? Because he'll love one and despise the other. And every single person in this room, you're living in service of something. What are you serving? Is it the right thing? Because if it's not, you're going to love one and hate the other. If you're living for yourself, you're going to start loving yourself a whole lot, and you're going to start hating God. You might not call it hate, but in comparison to how much you love yourself and your agenda and the things that you get out of life, it's going to look an awful lot like hate. Are you with me this morning, church? A servant cannot serve 2 masters, and we're all serving something. You're going to love one and hate the other. You can either live in service of our master, the servant, or you can live in service of serving yourself. The choice is up to you. I'd like you guys to close your eyes with me this morning. And I'd like to ask, if there's anybody here and you do not have a relationship with God, the greatest act of service that you can possibly make towards Christ is to give your life to him. Say, God, my whole life is yours as an act of service to you. God, I want to have a relationship with you. God, I want to live for you. I don't want to live for my agenda anymore. God, I want to live for yours. I want to have a relationship with you, and I want you to be my Lord and Savior. God, change me. Is there anybody in here today, you do not have a relationship with God and you would like to make today the day of your salvation? You'd like to make today the day that you discover new life in Christ? I want you to raise your hand this morning. Anybody at all? You want to say, that's me, Pastor Daniel. I want to pray this morning and have a relationship with Christ. I would like to make him my Lord and make my life centered around him. Anybody at all, that's you. I want you to raise your hand so I can pray with you. Don't want to embarrass you. I just want to pray with you. Anybody at all? All right. I want to talk to the church, y'all. I want y'all to look at me. Who are you serving? Who are you serving? Now, as I'm saying this, I know you guys love God, okay? I don't think you came to church this morning because you were bored. Well, maybe, but I think you came to this church this morning because you genuinely do love God and you genuinely want to have a relationship with him, and there's a part of you that wants to serve. But man, it's just so hard to break away from this mentality that it's about me. It's so hard to divorce yourself from this concept and to say, you know what, I'm not in it for me. Because you know that when you start going about life not interested in self, that sometimes your desires are going to go by the wayside. It's going to happen. And that's not as valuable to you as going and making things your own. But I'm here to tell you, man, when you just open your heart up to be a servant for God, it might take a while, but then your perspective starts to change. And those things that you thought that you needed to serve you start to be very unattractive. Cruise life is not cruise life forever. We were on that trip for 4 days. At the end of that 4 days, my room started to feel pretty small. I started being a little uncomfortable with people being all up in my business and in the room all the time. Like, y'all get out. I started saying, man, you know what? I wanna have my Cheez-Its. I wanna have a soda, and without having to pay a ridiculous amount of money for it. I wanna see my boys. Those things start to wear out their welcome really quick. And the things that matter are the things that truly fulfill you. And let me encourage you this morning, pursue the things that will fulfill you. Pursue the things that will fulfill you. And I want to ask, if you guys want to make a commitment with me today, I want you guys to stand up and say, I'm going to be a servant. I want to have a heart like Jesus. If all of you guys are standing up in sincerity, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. If you're standing up because everybody else is standing up, it diminishes it a little bit, but it's still really cool. But man, I want you to stop for a second. I want you to look around. There are over 100 people standing up in this room today. If you guys mean it, this church changes. And if this church changes, this city changes. If you mean it, if you mean it, if you mean it, if you mean it, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Serve. We're going to pray. I want you guys to open up your hands to the heavens. And I'm just going to pray for all of you guys, but I want you to just cry out to God and say, God, change my heart. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning, God, and there is a church full of people that are crying out with a desire to serve and be in service of you and your kingdom, God. And God, I know how difficult it is to break out of a mentality that we have to be served, God. And I know how difficult it is to reprogram everything that we've been taught up until this point. But God, I ask you that you will give us your servant's heart. God, that the Holy Spirit will come down into this room right now and empower us to serve. God, that the presence of the Holy Spirit will come down to this room and change hearts, God. That we will be conformed to your will, God. That we will be transformed by the renewing of our mind in Christ Jesus, God. That you will mold us and shape us, God. And like David prayed, God, search me, know me, see if there's any wickedness in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. Create in me a clean heart, O Lord. God, let us be men and women after your own heart, the heart of a servant, the heart that beats to serve, so that we might be greater empowered to save and to send and to accomplish everything that you have set us to do, God. Let us not make excuses. Let us not make compromises, God. Let us not go back to the way things used to be, God. God, let us change. Let us change. Let us change. Holy Spirit, empower us to serve. God, it's all about you. Stay in this attitude of worship this morning.